house was empty. It belongs to my father.
A car drives through the night and stops by a tall fence. A group of teenagers jumps over the fence and discovers a lake where two of them go skinny dipping. Suddenly, two men in a boat tell them to get out of the water while spraying it with something. 20 years later, in a nearby state, a law firm welcomes a new partner, Rob Billet. Two farmers arrive asking to see him, claiming to be friends of his grandmother. They say they need his help as an environmental lawyer and want him to watch some tapes they brought, but Rob declines.
I can offer you a referral, but I just don't see how I can be of any help.
Rob explains to the farmers that he represents large corporations, leading them to leave his office. He returns to a meeting where his boss, Tom Turf, inquires about the situation, but Rob brushes it off. Later that evening, at home with his wife and child, he appears troubled. The next day, he drives to West Virginia to visit his grandmother and look into the farmer's case. They discuss the farmers, and she recalls taking him and his sister to their farm when they were kids. On the way, he passes a landfill called Dry Run. Upon arriving at the farm, the farmer shows him unusual organs from his cattle, indicating sickness and deformities. Next, the farmer takes Rob to a creek where his animals drink. He points out unusual white rocks, claiming they contain chemicals that are poisoning his cattle.
Crazy line. Animals used to eat out of my own hand.
Rob turns around and sees just two cows. The farmer then takes him to an adjacent field where the rest of his cattle are buried. He has lost hundreds. Rob is troubled to find out that DuPont, the company that owns the landfill, has not addressed the farmer's concerns about the chemicals in the creek. Rob then heads back home. Rob goes to a work dinner with the president of DuPont, a longtime client of his firm. After dinner, he approaches the president to inquire about the landfill, but the president politely brushes him off, promising to look into it later. Rob then returns to the farmer's place with an evaluation.
Who gives him the right?
It's an evaluation.
Hatchet job's what it is.
The report on the farm and cattle claims the animals died from poor care, which frustrates the farmer, who believes otherwise. As they argue, one of the cows begins to act erratically and seems ready to charge at them. Rob gets into the truck while the farmer stays behind. The farmer shoots a cow that charges at them. Later, Rob drives through the town and realizes it's all owned by the chemical company. Back at the office, he shows his boss the videotapes and explains the situation, asking to take the case pro bono, since local lawyers are intimidated by the company. His boss reluctantly agrees, but tells him to stay focused. Rob then calls the company president, requesting more reports on the landfill, and is assured he will receive them. A year later, the reports arrive, while Rob is missing a party at his house. As he reviews the documents, he notices suspicious items with the acronym PFOA appearing frequently. He searches for its meaning at the office, but he finds nothing. A colleague joins him, and they discuss the case. Rob fears the company is illegally dumping undisclosed chemicals, but his colleague is also unaware of what PFOA means. Meanwhile, the president begins avoiding Rob's calls. That night, Rob attends the Ohio Chemical Alliance Awards dinner with his wife. He searches for the DuPont president and, when he finds him, confronts him, causing a scene that worries his wife. She is concerned about Rob's understanding of the situation, especially since his bosses are furious about him escalating the case. Court-ordered documents for the case arrive at the office, and DuPont tries to overwhelm Rob with materials and reports. Determined to uncover the truth, he begins reviewing them on his own and notices the acronym PFOA alongside C8. Meanwhile, the farmers face backlash in their town for suing the chemical company, which is the area's largest employer.
Usual.
Rob consults a chemist about his findings. The chemist admits he hasn't heard of PFOA, but mentions a similar synthetic compound made in the lab. When Rob asks what would happen if the compound is ingested, the chemist is shocked, comparing it to asking what would happen if you ingested a tire. Bob delves deeper into the case and realizes that DuPont is not only poisoning cattle, but also the local residents. He discovers that the chemical found in the documents is in the town's water supply, supported by confirming documents. Meanwhile, the farmer who contacted Rob visits a doctor due to ongoing illness. When he returns home with his wife, they find their documents have been ransacked and cattle samples stolen. DuPont is threatening them, leaving the farmer desperate to protect his family. Soon after, Rob uncovers an even more alarming revelation. Rob is back home late at night after everyone sleeps, and he startled her unknowingly.
I thought someone was breaking in, for God's sakes!
Rob tells his wife that DuPont is poisoning everyone, including their baby. She struggles to accept this, but he explains that the chemical he's investigating was developed during the Manhattan Project in World War II. After the war, some companies, including DuPont, repurposed it, renaming it C8 and using it to create Teflon. They produced this coating in a West Virginia factory, fully aware of its toxicity since the 1960s. Rob shares this information with his boss, detailing how DuPont has covered up the dangers of toxic C8 sludge over the years. He discovers that the company conducted experiments showing deformities in monkeys and rats, and they were aware that similar effects were occurring in their workers and their children, yet they concealed this information. The harmful product was ubiquitous, found in everything from pens to paints. When Rob's wife goes into labor, he asks the nurses if the baby shows any visible deformities, but they assure him that the baby is healthy. Later, Rob and his boss confront the president of DuPont, who admits he knows the extent of the contamination. Rob then updates the farmer, who refuses to settle in a civil case, insisting the world needs to know what DuPont has done. Rob warns him that fighting the company in court is futile due to its power. The farmer reveals that he and his wife both have cancer.
We got it, Sandra and me, the cancer.
Despite initial reservations, Rob convinces the farmer to accept a settlement, and they sign the papers with the DuPont president. Meanwhile, Rob leaks information about DuPont to relevant authorities and agrees to testify in their case against the company. His boss is furious, but wishes him luck in Washington. A year later, in 2001, Rob, his wife, and a colleague visit the Kitchens, who received a letter from DuPont. They share stories of family members who worked for the company and died of cancer, as well as others suffering the same fate. This information leads Rob to propose a class action lawsuit representing those harmed by DuPont, based on a legal loophole related to self-regulation and medical monitoring. The firm is divided. Some believe DuPont is not at fault, while others support Rob. The firm's leader defends Rob, arguing they should hold DuPont accountable. The following year, the case goes to court. Alongside Harry Dietzler, Rob faces a motion from DuPont to dismiss the case due to newly implemented contamination regulations, which complicate their legal strategy. The official set to testify is seen sitting next to the DuPont president and is later accused by Dietzler of being biased. A year later, Teflon becomes a major news topic in America and globally, with alarming information about the substance emerging. The Kitchens face threats when one of their homes burns down, but fortunately, it was the empty one. The legal battle continues, and Rob deposes the chairman of DuPont, confronting him with evidence from the 1970s, linking C8 to diseases like cancer and infertility. He presents documents that DuPont has tried to hide. As the defendant's attorneys prepare to leave, Rob shows the chairman a photo of a deformed child. After the deposition, Rob nervously approaches his car, fearing it might be rigged with a bomb. Later, DuPont is fined $16 million by the EPA, but the damages owed to the class members are being mediated by a third party, which appoints an independent science panel to address the medical monitoring aspect of the lawsuit. That day, Rob and his two colleagues celebrate their progress. One of Rob's colleagues is concerned that people involved in the case won't show up for their examinations and will instead accept a settlement from DuPont. Rob proposes checking their blood first and distributing payments afterward to demonstrate the company's wrongdoing and prevent future harm. Years later, blood tests are underway as Rob arrives in a West Virginia town where many people have gathered at a mobile lab. He enters and is greeted by a doctor who confirms that Rob's plan is working. Interestingly, a woman there still believes DuPont has done nothing wrong. It's Christmas, and Rob is celebrating with friends and family when he receives a call from a colleague about 69,000 people tested, providing a wealth of data. 11 years into the case, the farmer has passed away, and Rob attends his funeral with his family. Afterward, they visit a local diner where a man approaches Rob, saying his brother also died from cancer. As they leave, they drive past the unemployment office, where many people, some visibly angry, are gathered. Later, the Kitchens call Rob, expressing their frustration with the locals who are blaming them for being part of the case, as the situation seems never-ending. The wait for the analysis results is dragging on. A year later, Rob is having breakfast with his wife and 3 sons. After the kids leave for school, he worries about affording their Catholic school. His wife becomes upset, feeling he has been so consumed by the case that he's unaware of their family's issues. She storms out, and later that day, Rob argues with his boss about the case. Rob explains that all other government agencies have given up on addressing the DuPont issue, and this case is their last hope to fight the company. As they argue, Rob begins to shake uncontrollably, while his boss informs him of another pay cut. He then has a seizure and collapses. They take him to the hospital for tests, and later, his wife and boss wait for the results. A doctor explains that Rob is experiencing a neurological problem. After the doctor leaves, Rob's wife tells his boss that he needs to treat Rob better, as he has been fighting harder than either of them can comprehend. A year later, the family is seen at church after stopping at a gas station. Rob finally meets Bucky, the deformed child from the pictures he has seen over the years. The next day, Rob arrives at the office, looking devastated and defeated. While sitting at his desk, he answers a call from the doctor on the science panel, who informs him that the data has finally been analyzed. It confirms a direct link between DuPont's contamination and 6 serious illnesses, allowing affected individuals to seek compensation thanks to Rob's efforts. Feeling hopeful, he drives home to share the news with his family at a restaurant. However, he soon receives another call with terrible news. DuPont is challenging the science panel's findings. Rob fears it's over and that he's lost, believing that companies like DuPont always prevail, while people like him don't. He feels a responsibility to protect the little people. In 2015, a court session began as the judge took his seat. Rob stands up to advocate for his clients after winning 3 cases and settling 3,535 others. Rob Billet is still fighting. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.